Hello, welcome to our class this evening. Our very first session together. I want to know the truth. I want the truth. Assumptions and presuppositions. Our assumptions and presuppositions. I am here because you are here. And you are here because you chose to be here. I did not make you come, and to my knowledge, nobody else held a gun to your head and said, you're going. You are here because there is something you are looking for. There is something you are missing. There is an itch that you can't scratch. You're looking for something. You came because you think it might be here. You hope that it will be here. And I have good news. We have what you're looking for. That's not the issue. So let me ask you a question. Since you do not know what it is you're looking for, how will you know it when you find it? Well, I assure you, you will know it when you find it, and you will know without knowing how you know that you have found it. That moment will come over the next 8 weeks when it simply makes sense. Not only will it make sense, but it will make sense of everything else. You can't explain it, but you will know what you know without knowing how you know it's the truth. You will find what you're looking for without knowing it's what you've been looking for all your life. Well, you know the saying about the mother of all mess-ups. The common expression is that assumptions make a blank out of you and me. Assume you me. And it holds true. Our unexamined presuppositions, our unexamined assumptions exist invisibly as part of our lives. Like a book, we sometimes judge a person or a thing by its cover. External experience, external appearance, often to discover that our initial judgment was incorrect. Other assumptions are invisible and much more difficult to recognize. Sometimes these invisible assumptions impact us and keep us from having success. Now, let me show you what I mean. Now, you've got in your book some examples. Those of you that are watching on the internet that don't have the book yet, I'm going to draw it on the board. And as I do, it works this way. So you can just watch up here if you want, or you can look at the book, whatever works for you. The problem, you see, that we're asked to figure out is you've got 9 dots, 3 dots, 3 dots, and 3 dots. And the assignment is to connect all 9 dots with 4 straight lines without removing your pencil from the page. 4 straight lines without moving your pencil from the page. Now, if you're watching this on the internet, you could stop right now, stop the video right now, and go do this. We don't have the luxury of time to give you 30 minutes to play with this, and I apologize to you, but we must keep moving. So most of us, initially in our mind, if not with our pencil, are going, okay, I'll go here and here and here and here, and oops, I left one out. So then we try again, and so this time we maybe go, oh, I'll just go there first, and then down, and here, and up, and I left this one out. again and again and again and again and again and again and again, we fail. We cannot solve the puzzle. Now, you have to stay with me now. There are two puzzles inside this one puzzle. The first puzzle is connecting the 9 dots. The second puzzle is, why can't I solve the first puzzle? What keeps me from solving it? And here's the proof. The reason you can't solve that puzzle is because you made an assumption and you don't know you made it. That's how dangerous assumptions are in our lives. They keep us from success. They keep us from solving the issues of our lives because we've got an assumption that works as a roadblock. The assumption is this: well, we need a choir singing and drums blowing, solution, and all of that fancy stuff. No, we don't. We need the truth. The assumption that keeps us and makes us a failure is we assume the answer is inside a box. Every solution we try is inside that box. Here, here, here. Even we finally just give up and say, I like pretty things. I'm just going to have a diamond here, here, and here. And I don't care about the corners anymore, the one in the middle. We just choose how I'm going to live my life and which dots I want left out. I don't need that one. I'm content with this. Because we believe our life is inside that box. If we change the assumption, we begin to change the outcome of the puzzle of our own life. You see, if we have our 9 dots here, and I'll make them all over again, and I don't live in a box, and so therefore I'm going to start here as I did before, but I'm going to go, wow, let's come out here, and how about up and like that? That's 2, and down to here is 3, and off to the moon is 4. Now, if you want the easy thing out, you just say, that was good. I got the price of admission tonight. And then a week from now, you're going to see the puzzle and you're going to say, now, how was it? We've solved it. And you're going to try to figure it out all over again. And you're going to try to, oh, yeah, it had something to do with this. And you missed the whole point of that assumption you never got rid of. It's the assumptions in our lives that are bringing us to this room and to these seminars tonight. You want the truth. How can I connect all the dots of my own life? That's what we're going to be doing over tonight and 7 more sessions after tonight. The dots, making it work. Let me see. Golly, I had so much fun with that one. I don't know where I am. I don't know what page it's on, but it's going to say superficial change versus real change. Page 12? Perfect. Thank you. I'll put that in my notes, so next time I teach this class, I'll already have it there. You're helping me already. We mistake superficial change, surface change, for real change. We're unhappy, so we think we'll change our hair color or get a new spouse or a new house. Of course, no real change in us occurs. We just change the externals. Each of our attempts to solve the 9-dot problem were superficial changes. We changed which dots we included and which ones we left out. But those are merely superficial changes We needed a real change, not a superficial one. We needed to change the assumption, the system, if you will, within which we could find the solution to our problem. For thousands of years, everyone believed the Earth was the center of the solar system. The sun, the moon, the stars, and the planets all rotated around us. Everything in the sky revolved around us. However, the astronomers could never create a model that could actually chart all of that happening. It was impossible because these planets, and the word planet means wanderer, they just wandered all over the place and wouldn't fit into any system. They could never connect all of those dots together. In 1543, Copernicus made a real change in the assumption. He changed it. Instead of a geocentric Earth as the center of everything, Copernicus stepped outside the box and assumed a heliocentric universe, that the sun was the center and everything was revolving around the sun. You see, there's superficial change, which is a change of something within the way we do things, and there is that real change of the system that we're even using to think with. Let me give you another example out of our own lives, if you've ever seen the show Family Feud on television. A question on the game show had 4 correct answers. If you've seen it, they give you the 4 answers, and you've got to guess what the 4 answers are. The contestants can have 3 wrong answers before they lose the turn, and their opponents get a chance to see if they can win. So here was the question. We asked 100 people, and you can play this in your own head, if you will. Don't say it out loud. We don't have time to play the game. Name something an old frog might not be able to do as well as a young frog. What can an old frog no longer do as well as a young frog? Top 4 answers. The first guess that someone made was jump, which was correct. The younger one can jump. The second one guessed croak. You know, that rivet and the big whatever, the croak. And the third one was they can eat bugs with that tongue flipping out quicker, the younger one. That was 1 answer left because there were 4. They found 3. 1 answer was left. And so the next member of the team, the 4th guess was swim. Wrong. 5th guess, mate. Wrong. 6th guess, make tadpoles. Wrong. There are 3, they got 3 correct, and they missed the next 3, so now their turn was over, and the opponents got a chance to steal and win the game and get to then play for $20,000. And the opponents have 1 guess, only to make, and their single guess was the younger frog can get the princess to kiss them. It was the winning answer. They won the game and went on to win $20,000. You see, all of the answers the first team gave came from within a biological box of what an old frog versus a young frog might be able to do. They gave 6 answers, 3 of which were the ones that were up there, and the other 3 weren't. It wasn't whether they were right or wrong, they just weren't the answer. The winning team, however, made a different assumption. They assumed the answer was outside the biological box. They won the game when they stepped outside the biological box. they'll get the princess to kiss them. Wow, of course, we all grinned when I said it a while ago. You're going, of course, because you know the story. And then, of course, you know the follow-up, just how many frogs does she have to kiss to get a prince in the first place? Okay. Hey, guys, I'm going to have some fun for the next 8 weeks. I invite you to come and join in with me the best we can. Page 14, example 2, 19th century Paris. Again, stepping outside the box. During one of the many 19th century riots in Paris, the commander of an army detachment received orders to clear the city square by firing at the rabble. He commanded his soldiers to take up firing positions. They had marched in. You could hear the rattle of their weapons as they put them in place. The crowd had grown quiet. As those rifles are now leveled at the crowd, he drew his sword ready to give the command, and he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Madam and Messieurs, I have orders to fire at the rebels, but I can see a great number of honest, respectable citizens before me. I request that they leave so that I can safely shoot the rebels." The square was empty in a few moments. Like the winning team in Family Feud, the commander of the army detachment stepped outside the assumption of military conflict to quell a riot. He assumed that if given a choice, those in the square would behave like respectable citizens and would save their own lives and quietly go home rather than remain and be killed. We are here. We are here because our assumptions have not worked. Western civilization, Western culture is a box filled with unexamined presuppositions and assumptions. They are part of the air we breathe. These are things we all take for granted because everyone else takes them for granted as well. Our cultural givens that we take for granted and never think about and don't even know that we have for granted include, for our purposes, such things as Platonic thinking or Aristotelian thinking, scientific thinking, rational thinking, faith, religion, Sistine Chapel of God, the Pope, the Catholic Church, our assumptions, Luther, Calvinism, assumptions about the Protestant Church and the Evangelical Church. What is the Bible? Heaven, hell, time, eternity, and the living and the dead. We all have assumptions about every one of those things. Some of us here tonight have tried believing. Some of us have tried being agnostics. And some of us tonight are atheists. But the bottom line is we are here because all the dots in our own lives have not connected. There is something missing. Dots are left out. You see, it is 2025. The first quarter of the 21st century is quickly becoming the first half of the 21st century. Most of us here, many of us here, grew up in this century. We may have been born in 1990-ish, but we grew up here in the 21st century. Your memories, your experiences, and everything you know comes from living in the 21st century. You see, the 21st century is not like the 20th century. It had 2 world wars, the Korean War and Vietnam. The 21st century, this century, your century, began with 9/11 and the religious wars with radical Islam. The 21st century is about digital information and virtual living. The 21st century is also the century of the new atheism, led by its four horsemen, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, and Richard Dawkins. In their hands, religion was not merely old-fashioned and irrelevant, it was now considered dangerous and irrational. In 2010, Ferdinand Mount announced, "God's long funeral is over." And we are back to where we started. 2,000 years of history have melted into the backstory, which no one reads anymore. We have returned to year zero, AD 0, or rather 0 CE, because we are in the common era now, the years of our Lord having expired. Time magazine shocked our One Nation Under God in 1966 with its Easter cover edition asking, "Is God dead?" You have a picture there in the book, page 17. Time magazine received over 3,000 angry letters in protest to that cover. Less than half a century later, in 2010, I just read it from Ferdinand Mount, we're not even sure when God died. We are at least sure the funeral's now over. Today, we no longer remember even when God lived in our culture, in our lives since the 21st century. To infinity and beyond. That brings us to now. It's simply not working. Life in the 21st century doesn't work. Rock stars of the secular now offer commentary. We have influencers on everything. Commentary on the failure of our 21st century, like Jordan Peterson, who, like an Old Testament prophet or street corner preacher, criticizes culture for failing to meet our needs. His book, The 12 Rules for Life, offers itself as an antidote to chaos. He quickly followed that book with, beyond order, 12 more rules. He's got 24 rules for living. After World War I, the comedians joked about Wilson's 14 points for saving the world. Moses only had 10. Well, Wilson had 14. Peterson's now got 24. Again, Moses only had 10. I'm having some fun here. I hope I didn't just bump your assumption of what a guru some of these guys are. So I'm calling everything into question because we're going to step outside of our box, and our precious dots that we're determined I'm going to hang on to. You can hang on to them. Just get rid of the box, because when we come here, we're going to connect all of those precious dots anyway. But we're going to have all of them with us, not just some of them with us. Long after God died in Western culture, and 15 years after his long funeral, the funeral was over in 2015, that's us, 2025. The firebrand atheist is now gone, replaced by someone deeply troubled by the direction that our post-Christian culture is now traveling in. Buzz Lightyear's To Infinity and Beyond, boy, am I dating myself, is now an empty prospect, as each of us realize the chickens are coming home to roost in our postmodern West. There is no meaning. Neither the present nor the future now mean a thing. You see, the grand narrative has collapsed. Even in the late 20th century, Western Christianity had remained the dominant cultural force in the West and had shaped the psychology of generations of people and their societies. For nearly 2 millennia, Western Christendom had given people a story to live their lives by. It did not matter whether anyone actually believed the story. The story was big enough, large enough, to include everything, past, present, and future. Even the atheist who openly disbelieved the story needed the story in order to define and know what he believed and what he now rejected. You do away with the story, I haven't got anything to reject. I'm lost without the story. I need your story so I can say I don't believe it. Everyone, including the atheists, defined who they were in terms of that big story in which everyone inside the West lived our lives. Then it happened. Our grand narratives have collapsed. Even the theory of everything wasn't. The grand narrative of the divine gave way to our meta-narratives of causes that gave meaning to its participants, the many narratives of progressivism, imperialism, feminism, emancipation, liberationism, Marxism, wokeism, etc., 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 making the world safe for democracy, protesting the Vietnam War, or our own now personal narratives, I am my own truth. So here we are tonight, camped against the sea. A mass of humanity camped against the sea. The baby boomers you see still think the world in their heads is the world the rest of us now live in. But the rest of us, the Gen Xers, the millennials, the Zs, the Gen As, and now the Gen Bs, all live in a world without the grand story, the great narrative that connects dots and tries to tie everything together. You see, science can tell us how the universe began. It cannot tell us why it's here in the first place. Science can tell us what we are made of, but it cannot tell us the value of our own lives. Science gives us virtual reality that we pretend is real because we do not know how or what to do with the reality that is real. The movies are all headed in that direction, aren't they? And the list goes on and on. There is an emptiness of missing dots in our culture seeping into all of our lives. We are here this evening because there is an emptiness inside us. Something is missing. There are dots that do not connect. In a sense, there's an epidemic of emptiness coming across our nation. And however we describe the emptiness or try to define what's missing, it always comes down to one or two or three of the following dots that are always left out. And we all face our own epidemic of loneliness with these missing dots, the missing dot of meaning. What does it all mean? What is the meaning of life? What is a sense of purpose? Why am I here? Does my life have any meaning? Does it make any difference? Do I matter? Is there any significance to me? And what about community? Where do I fit in, if anywhere? And with whom do I belong? Do I even belong? Do I even fit in with anybody? Am I part of something greater than myself? Well, is that all there is? Is that all there is? You see, God died in our culture in 1966. Took 44 years to bury him. 3 years after God died in America, Peggy Lee sang a song about living in a world that had no God. This song is really about us living in a world without meaning. Is that all there is? She sang, I remember when I was a little girl, our house caught on fire. I'll never forget the look on my father's face as he gathered me in his arms, and raced through the burning building out on the pavement. And I stood there shivering in my pajamas and watched the whole world go up in flames. And when it was all over, I said to myself, is that all there is to a fire? Is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, my friends, then let's just keep dancing. Let's break out the booze and have a ball, if that's all there is. And when I was 12 years old, my daddy took me to the circus, the greatest show on earth. There were clowns and elephants and dancing bears. And a beautiful lady in pink tights flew high above our heads. And as I sat there watching, I had the feeling that something was missing. I don't know what, but when it was over, I said to myself, is that all there is to the circus? Is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, my friends, then let's just keep dancing. Let's break out the booze and have a ball, if that's all there is. And then I fell in love with the most wonderful boy in the world. We'd take long walks by the river or just sit for hours, gazing into each other's eyes. We were so very much in love, and then one day he went away, and I thought I'd die, but I didn't. And when I didn't, I said to myself, is that all there is to love? Is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, my friend, then let's keep. I know what you must be saying to yourselves. If that's the way she feels about it, why doesn't she just end it all? Oh no, not me. I'm not ready for that final disappointment, because I know just as well as I'm standing here talking to you that when that final moment comes and I'm breathing my last breath, I'll be saying to myself, if that's all there is, if that's all there is, if that's all there is, my friend, then let's keep dancing. Let's break out the booze and have a ball, if that's all there is. Well, here we are well into the 21st century. No one cares about Peggy Lee or that she sang. She's now only a reminder of the offensive past everyone wants to forget. You see, this is today. This is how 2025, a 20-something Portia, describes life. She said, I've been feeling so depressed at home, and I just thought I would come here, she went to Sicily, and feel something. Is everything boring? I just feel like there must have been a time when the world had more. like mystery or something. And now you come somewhere like this and it's beautiful. And you take a picture and then you realize that everyone else has taken the exact same picture from that exact same spot, and you just made some redundant content for stupid Instagram. You can't even get lost anymore because you can find yourself on Google Maps. Wow. You are here because you want to know, is that all there is? Or shall we all just get drunk and keep on dancing? In that famous courtroom scene in a movie, A Few Good Men, Colonel Jessup wanted to know the exact same thing. He is tired of Lieutenant Caffey beating around the bush and not asking the real question. Jessup says, "Now, are these really the questions I was called here to answer? Phone calls and footlockers. Please tell me that you have something more, Lieutenant. These two Marines are on trial for their lives. Please tell me their lawyer hasn't pinned their hopes to a phone bill." Like Colonel Jessup, wanting to know if this is all there is, or is there something else we want to know? Is there anything more, or is this really all there is? But we are also tonight just like Lieutenant Caffey, who screamed out, "I want the truth." And you have come here tonight with the same demand. If this is all there is, tell me the truth. I want the truth. Is this all there is, a life filled with tragedy, a three-ring circus of unending, meaningless entertainment and pleasure, a life of love and disappointment, a life that ends only in death? Is the 21st century nothing more than a century of sex without love and love without meaning? Is there anything left to believe in? Thank God. Yes, there is. Is there any meaning to life? Yes, there is. Is there any purpose for you personally and individually? By God, yes, there is. Whoa, I can get excited because we're going to get to life. I'm tired of everything I just said. It was dull, boring, and blah. If that's all there is to these classes, let's go get drunk and keep on dancing. Hallelujah. Boy, I almost think I was a Pentecostal here for a second. Oops. Well, we got rid of a few assumptions real fast, didn't we? Can you handle the truth? That's now the issue. You see, the truths that we're going to encounter is going to cost us our assumptions. In the same way we had to lay aside our assumption in order to see what the solution was to the 9 dots, likewise, only when we lay aside our Western assumptions about God, the church, and all the things that go with that, do we make it possible to connect all the dots. Remember this: if truth is the truth, it not only makes sense on its own terms, it also makes sense of everything else. It connects all the dots. The truth is the truth because it connects all of them. Join me as we connect all the dots and discover for ourselves the truth that makes sense out of everything and gives meaning to life. I promise you that I will tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. We're now ready for chapter 2, I think, in your book. I think it may be like on page 26. Okay, thank you. You see, one begins a journey by preparing for it. You get the right suitcase, the right kind of traveling gear, the right clothing. If you're going to the beach, you're not going to wear a heavy coat. If you're going north, you better take a heavy coat. And if your journey is going to involve a lot of walking, you better get a nice, comfortable pair of shoes. You may need to break them in before you even go. Just like we get in shape for those kind of trips, we're getting in shape for our journey that we're going to be making over the next several weeks together. Our journey is going to begin by calling our assumptions into questions. Let me give you just 3 kind of quick, easy examples of how our assumptions get called into questions. Number 1, the assumption the East versus the West. We all know the expression, East is East and West is West, and never the two shall meet. And as long as we are safely embedded deep inside our own culture and inside our own intellectual borders, East and West never seem to meet. But our journey takes us out of that comfort zone. In our journey, East is going to meet West, or should I say the West is now going to meet the East. It does not take long to discover that East and West approach life from radically different perspectives of knowledge. For example, we could ask, what is a tree? Now, we in the West, we know that we're going to answer that question. We're going to go get a chainsaw, and the first thing we're going to do is cut down a tree. And when we do, we're going to count the rings on the trunk. And that's going to tell us what? The age of the tree, 1 year for every ring. Is that correct? Okay, good. And if you've got some really thick, fat rings, what might that tell us? It was a lot of rain that spring, and maybe like this year, we had a lot of rain, and the foliage really grew before some of the hot air finally began getting here. And if you've got skinny rings, then it was the years of no rain or drought and so forth. And so if we counted 50 rings, we would have the climate history of Oklahoma, at least in terms of rainfall, for the last 50 years. We would know X number of years ago it was raining and et cetera, and then we had a long period of drought. You would see those cycles there. And then, of course, we would begin to strip the bark from the trunk. We would see if there was disease on the inside. We would notice what kind of bugs there may have been that crawled inside there and made their home and made those burrows along the way. We might even then split the long trunk open and see that porous material that's inside, and could speculate then on how that root system collected water and how it then traveled through this porous mesh inside the center of the tree the longer we went up and so forth. We would then notice the limbs that came out, and we would pay particular attention to those green growing things on the end, the leaves. And if we were skillful, we could take a sharp knife or scalpel, and we could actually slice off one thin layer of cells, and we could put them on a flat glass and put it under a microscope, and we could actually see the single individual cells in that leaf with that green stuff in them. Chlorophyll, I think we've called that stuff. And then we could begin to speculate on what happens when sunlight hits that green stuff and it's got water that's come up from the roots and it created then a food source that fed the tree that caused the tree to grow. And we're talking about the miracle of photosynthesis and this whole life ecosystem of how moisture comes in and it grows and grows and grows, etc. And we've written it all down very carefully so others can read it and learn from it in our lab book. And that night when we leave the lab, as we turn out the light, proud of that lab book with all of our fresh knowledge, we leave behind a pile of sawdust and a dead tree. Now, if you want to ask us from the East what a tree is, the first thing we're going to do is plant one. We want to watch it grow. We want to see whether or not it needs, what kind of soil it needs. Does it do, can it make it in the red clay of Oklahoma? Does it need a lot of fresh dirt on it? We need to see how it handles water. Can it be in a low kind of area, mushy area, and where the rainfall runs down? Can it handle water? Does it need to be on a slope so it's got good drainage? You notice all of those things as it begins to thrive and grow. And then as it begins to grow, we notice whether it can withstand the Oklahoma wind. You've been places and you see all the trees kind of leaning, and you know they couldn't stand the southern wind that blows so strong when the tree growing season, the north wind of the winter, and it never seemed to turn it back up straight, or whether we need to put one of those round rubber things around it with the string off of it, the ropes off of it, so it helps it grow till it's strong enough to stand on its own. And then we notice how the limbs begin to go out. And then one spring, we notice that there's a bird making a nest in our tree. And we go, wow, that means this tree is healthy enough that the bird can now trust it to place its home in it. And it's got enough structure, the wind's not going to blow the tree down, and then it's got enough leaves above it that it will shelter the rain off of it. We've got this, we then get to notice the eggs being laid, the new life that's coming as the eggs hatch. We get to notice all of this happening in the tree that we planted. And then, of course, that tree then, we had a spring, and it just shot up another 10 feet, and then it's gotten strong, and it's got a strong limb coming out. And I'm telling this from a masculine point of view. You go get a rope, you throw it over that limb. You got a loose 2x4 over there about that long. You tie your rope around it, and you go grab the rope, and you hop on, and you've got a swing. And you're watching that limb go up and down and up and down, and it's strong enough to hold you. And the years have gone by, and you've gotten older, and you notice it's a family moved down the road, and it's a family that's got several girls, and one of them catches your eye, and you want to invite her over to swing on your swing. And you figure she's not going to want to jump on that old 2x4 and straddle the rope, so you better get another rope and throw around that tree as well, get rid of the 2x4 and put a porch swing there. Aha, so now you come invite her in the cool of the evening, you come, and you sit there in the cool of the evening and you have a date, and you fall in love together, swinging in the shade of your tree. The day comes when you're going to get married. You get married in the Orthodox church. That's not going to happen out there under the tree. It's going to happen at an altar at the church. But afterwards, you've invited everybody to come for your reception out here on that nice, cool spring evening under the shade of your tree. The day comes that you have children, and now they're playing underneath the limbs of that tree, just like you had done when you planted it a long time ago. The years have passed, and the grandkids have come and played there as well. And the day comes when we have been called home, and we've already made plans and got permission from the state of Oklahoma to be able to be buried here on the property underneath the shade of our tree, so that when our family and the future generations of kids and grandkids and great-greats come to remember us, they can enjoy the shade of that tree and be comfortable there and have a nice time. So if you ask us what a tree is, you're going to get a different answer than from the lab coat and the pile of sawdust. It's a different approach to life. It's experiential. We know what we know because we have lived it and are living with it and so forth. Now, let me clarify this immediately. We are not against scientific knowledge. We make use of scientific knowledge the same way you do. We are not against medicine. We're not against. Period. Got it? But at the same time, we're not limited to Western rational knowledge and approach to life. That's an assumption we don't make. We make the assumption that life is bigger than an academic description about it, and so forth. So that's a difference that's going to happen that's there. And so you begin to notice that difference that happens between East and West. That's our second assumption, is that there are speed bumps ahead. I think I'm on page 28 if you're following along. You see, this Eastern approach is different, and there's going to be a bump. Well, I don't like those speed bumps. Do you? Bump? You know, particularly some of them are sharper and bigger than others, and really kind of, I guess I shouldn't be going that fast in the first place. I'm guilty. Just let that cat out of the bag, didn't I? Those of us raised in the West, there's going to be that bump then that's going to happen. If it hadn't happened already tonight, it's going to happen next week or the week. Somewhere it's going to go, oh, that felt a little uncomfortable. Ooh, that touched one of my pet assumptions, and I didn't know that that was an assumption. That was interesting. What happens is we think we can come to these classes and make it fit inside our 9-dot box. We're going to try to find a place to put it. It just won't fit. I don't know what you call Venetian blinds today. You know, the window system that's got the slats, all that are there, and you got a cord you pull up and down like this, and it'll open and shut. Whatever you call those, louvered, I don't know. But I do know that if you turn one of them backwards to all the rest, they don't shut right. Well, a lot of people want to come in here, and you've already got your Venetian blind set a certain way, and you're going to take what you learned tonight, and you go home and we'll flip that one. And then you try to flip this one. It doesn't work. You can't put this in a different system. It doesn't work. That's what we're trying to say. It just won't fit. It's similar to, you know, we Americans don't learn foreign languages very well. We're just not good at it. I think it's because we use English to learn the foreign language. We go in and we use English to talk about German. It's kind of tough. You know, we walk in and we discover that the word for window in German is Fenster. And then we look at one another and say, hey, would you open the Fenster for us? And you're so proud of yourself as you go over and open the window. And we think we're talking German. Well, wir haben eine Fehler gemacht. Wir nicht sprechen Deutsch. Jawohl. Oops. We made a mistake. We're not talking German. We're make-believing we're talking German. The best way to learn a language is to park your own language outside the classroom. And you just come in and you hear it, and you begin to absorb it the same way we did when we were infants, hearing our parents talk, and began to hear it, and you began to absorb it and intuit it. And even if you don't know the words, you know what someone is saying to you when you begin to hear it, and so forth. The same is true for learning a new spiritual language. We know the spiritual language of the West, whether we believe it or not, any of it. We know the lingo. We know what it's supposed to say. And so you're trying to just change words out with the spiritual language of the West, and it won't work. And it makes it a little hard because both languages, the East and the West, have some similar words. Both have God, Jesus, Christ, church. We got similar words, but they're used entirely with different uses and meanings. So we can't assume the assumptions of what that word means and how it's supposed to function with the other words. It's a new language. We start from scratch. Okay, the third assumption, let me do it this way. I'm giving you saying the same thing every different way I can to get you to think with me and get ready for it. There is a difference in playing checkers and playing chess. There is two different games. I'm assuming we've at least played one of them or been around someone and know at least one of the two games. Maybe we've at least seen two of them, the two games, or played them. They're different. The pieces are different. The structure of the game is different, but they both use the same playing board. They both use the same playing board, two different games. Eastern Christianity and Western Christianity often use the same words. I just said this. Two different games, if you will. In checkers, the whole goal is how to make a king. In chess, you have a king. The whole goal is to protect the king that you got. And so we walk into a class like this, all we know are checkers, Western Christianity, and we come in with a checker question. How do you make a king? I cannot answer a checker question from a chess perspective. It won't work. I have to get out of playing chess, jump into being a checker player to tell you why we don't do it that way. So, if you want to learn chess, you leave your checkers at home. I'm just saying the difference of coming in, it's hard to get out of the box. And I'm giving you an escape tool saying, I am in over here, out of the box, and helping you get here as well. That's the truth. That's what it is that we're doing. Okay. Let me see. Where in the world are we? Chapter 3, page 31. Wow, we're zipping through it tonight. Let's begin with a statement in Matthew 16:13. Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked his disciples, saying, who do you say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, he asked, who does everyone say that I am? And they said, well, some say you're John the Baptist, some say you're Elijah, some say you're Jeremiah, or one of the other prophets out of the Old Testament. And then Jesus just passed aside what everybody else in the whole country thought he was, and he just looked at them and said, okay, but who do you guys think I am? Who do you say I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Christ answered him, blessed are you, Simon, son of John, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades, the gates of death, shall not prevail against it. Well, there's three questions that arise out of this episode regarding how we can understand it. For example, what does his confession mean? What does Peter actually mean by the term Christ? You are the Christ. Is Christ a political figure or a religious figure? What does the term son, you are the Son of God, mean? Is it literal or is it metaphorical or what? What is the relationship of the Son then with God that's implied with it? Those would be questions that somewhere you make an assumption you know the answer on and begin to go from there. Secondly, what does it mean, blessed are you? Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but the Father. Are there actually two different ways of knowing something? Is there rational academic knowledge, and there's also illuminating revelation? There's intuitive cognition, as well as our empirical cognition, two different cognitions in our human brain. And thirdly, what does upon this rock mean? Is it Peter, or is it the confession, the rock upon which Jesus is going to build his church? You can see, we just can't make assumptions to begin with. That's what I just illustrated. And then on 32, Christ says, I will build the church. That statement also raises questions about this church. First of all, who's going to build the church according to Christ? Me, Deacon Ezra? You get to build your own church? How about Martin Luther? He get to do it? John Calvin? John Wesley, one of the guys on television or the internet? Or Jesus? Who said he would build the church? Well, it was Jesus, right? Didn't he just say, I will build? I will build the church. He's the builder. Once he builds it, whose is it? Who does it belong to? Is he a contractor building a house for us? Having someone moving to a new neighborhood and someone's going to build our house for us? He said, I will build a church for Martin Luther, and Martin Luther could live in it. I'm going to build a church for John Calvin. I think I like those guys on TV now. I'll build one of them, a mega church with 50,000 people coming. I'll do that. It's not a trick question because everybody's building their church around us. He said, I will build my church. I'm going to build a church. I'm going to build my church. So when he builds it, it's his. Okay. You can see these aren't trick questions. I'm just asking what he said and what does it mean? And what do we assume that it means? And then thirdly, the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. It's not going to lose. It won't be defeated. Okay, if he's going to build a church, it's going to be his church, and Hades can't defeat it. Where is it? Where is the church that Jesus built? Where is it? Well, you can't find it because he hasn't built it yet. He said, I will build it. That's future. And I know it's been 2,000 of our years, but 1,000 years is the day to the Lord. He just hadn't gotten around to it yet. So you can't find the church he's going to build because he hadn't built it yet. That's one reason we couldn't find it if we go looking for it. Secondly, he actually did it. He actually built his church, and it is his church. Gosh, he miscalculated, and Hades won the battle after all. You can't find it because it went out of business because Hades and Satan won. Ugh. Oh, I know. Hades won the battle, but not the war. Because Martin Luther came along and rescued it, reformed it, and saved it, and that's the church. No, Luther didn't do it. Calvin did. No, Calvin didn't do it. John Wesley did. No, he didn't do it. This group did. No, it's that group, because they say they're the only ones over there. Wow. Assumptions, assumptions, assumptions. I'm going to make an assumption. I assume Jesus is God and knows what he's talking about. That's my assumption. I'm going to start there. He said he would build the church. I believe he built it. He said it's going to be his church. I believe he did, and it's still his. And the gates of Hades, the gates of death, will not prevail against it. I believe he told the truth. I believe his church is still in existence, still standing, and still proclaiming the gospel he gave it to proclaim upon his death, burial, and resurrection. I believe he told the truth. I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. That's where I'm going to start. All of that was on page 33, I think. Okay, I want to do a very fast. How fast is it going to be? Oh my goodness, is it going to be fast? The church that Jesus built in history, you begin in 30 AD, we got the resurrection and we come into existence. They're going to be scattered through persecution. They're going to spread to Crete. They're going to Cyprus. They're going to go to Lebanon and Damascus, in Syria, up to Turkey, to Antioch, began to spread the gospel throughout the Roman Empire. And as we spread and grew through the years, we began using the apostles as the model then, the pattern. We created bishops to oversee a geographical area where Christianity was, the parishes, the churches in that geographical area. They were an overseer of the churches over a geographical area. Our word for that today is they were the governor. They were like the governor of Oklahoma is over a territory, a region. The governor of Kansas is there. Texas is there. Governors of a locale overseeing it. Now, all of the governors would be equal. One couldn't tell the governor of Oklahoma, doesn't get to tell Kansas what to do, or Texas, vice versa, whatever. The same was true for the bishops. They couldn't change the doctrine. They couldn't change the practice. They were administrators solving common problems. They needed a new priest in an area. There was a priest that needed some correction over here, needed removed or whatever. One passed away or one was martyred, etc. That's going on. They are overseers. And when in a region you had several of the pastors and the bishops that would get together, since they're all equal, who gets to be the presider of the meeting? They're all equal. How do you do it? They came upon the solution that the clergy that came from the largest city for that meeting that was there at that day was the automatic presider for the meeting. He was called first among equals. It's a title of honor for that day. You're the presider. We do the same thing today. If all the Lions clubs in Oklahoma are going to have a meeting, the president of the Oklahoma City Lions Club or the Tulsa Lions Club just carries a little more prestige because of the size of their club than the president of the club. And boy, if I name one of our smaller towns and villages, I live in a little bitty spot in the road called Seward, Oklahoma, and we don't have a Lions Club, so I'm safe. If we had one, the president of Oklahoma City Lions Club would carry more prestige than the president of the Seward Lions Club. If I could make my point, that we do that. It doesn't mean they're smarter, better than anybody in Seward, Oklahoma. It just means they carried the prestige of the larger setting with them. First among equals. And then as Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire, and boy, let's just make the Mediterranean world here. Golly, this is going to be Rome. This is Antioch. Here is Jerusalem, and here is Alexandria in Egypt. In 300 AD, Constantine becomes the emperor of the Roman Empire. He's going to move the capital over here in this area to Constantinople because there's nothing out here but jackrabbits. There's nobody out here, but it's the western frontier of the Roman Empire. The whole population is over here in Mesopotamia, Persia, all the way to India, going on to China. That's where the people live. And so in order to administer the center of the population, you needed to move the capital over here to be in the middle of all of that. And so you have these areas, the 5 major large cities in the Roman Empire, in the Mediterranean world, and they represent languages inside the empire. The Latin western end was Latin. This eastern end here was Greek. And of course, with Alexander the Great conquered all of this, Greek was the language of civilization, at least from east of Italy all the way. It was spoken. Antioch was the Arab world, which goes down into Saudi Arabia, and went all the way through Mesopotamia. The Semites coming out of there, along with the other linguistic groups out of Mesopotamia. Jerusalem was our mother church, and Alexandria in Africa was the Coptic language. So automatically, when you had all of the bishops or clergymen in a language area get together to deal with a common administrative issue. Coming from our world today, we might say, how do you transfer membership? How do we get our roles set straight? You move from this village outside of Alexandria to Alexandria. You're now in the roles there. How do we just administrative stuff? And so these areas, when they would meet together, the Bishop of Rome was automatically the first among equals, always. The Bishop of Constantinople, that was the capital now, always. Antioch, always the Arab area. Jerusalem, the mother church. Alexandria, the Coptic language. Automatically. There was never a guess who's going to be the first among equals at that meeting when they were all there. And the word was given to this huge language area. It was a patriarchate. And the bishop of that capital city was called a patriarch. And so you had the patriarch of Constantinople, which was the patriarch of that patriarchate, the Greek-speaking group. The patriarch of Alexandria, the patriarch of Jerusalem, the patriarch of Alexandria, and the patriarch of Rome. The patriarch of Rome used a different title for himself. He didn't like the Greek, and he eventually is going to be the Pope, the Father, in Italian or Latin, as it may be. And so you have these 5 major cities, 5 major regions, 5 languages operating. And when there was a common issue that happened after Constantine, he then is going to call all of them together, and they're going to meet over here, what is today northern Turkey, sometimes in Constantinople, sometimes in Turkey, and have these huge, known as ecumenical councils, where the church would deal with common issues facing all of them together. When Constantine moved to here, that depopulated Italy and Rome. If there were several million in Rome, it got left with maybe 50,000. I don't know the exact figures. And once Rome was depopulated, in 410, you had the Germanic tribes, this time led by Alaric, that's going to come through the Alps, and they're going to do a raid on the city of Rome, and they're going to sack the city. They're going to loot it. They need they need food. They need the animals. They were nomadic tribes, so they don't possess any of the stuff that people manufacture in cities. So they needed clothing. They needed wives. They'd take the girls, etc. This sack of the city of Rome happens, and it sent shockwaves through the Latin end of the empire. This is the Christians' fault. I tell you what, that Christian lovey-dovey God of theirs isn't worth anything. I'll take the gods of Rome. Those gods protected our city. We no longer honor Mars, the god of war. Now, there was a God. He would have never let Alaric do this to us. Well, you know, in the Roman Empire, that'll get you killed. The emperor could just come and cut your head off. So this was just a whispering campaign. There was a bishop of the church down here in North Africa, in Hippo, named Augustine, and he's going to write a defense of Christianity against these murmurings. The name of his book is called The City of God. The City of God, along with the Christian Bible, are the two most important books in creating medieval Europe and medieval Christianity. They are based on the City of God. The City of God makes use of the philosophy of Plato, the Greek philosopher Plato. His name is found on almost every page in this massive, thick book, and it will create a vision where the whole issue of life on this earth is to achieve salvation. And so the function of human cities and government, the function of education, the function of our social groups, the function of our politics, every function of everything we do has one goal: to get us saved so we don't burn in hell. And so you create a medieval society where everything is religious, everything is otherworldly oriented, and you create the medieval Europe. That's going to happen after 400. Gosh, I've got to hurry. I've got to run real quick. I'm going to jump. 800, you get Charlemagne. Charlemagne is over here. That was a Germanic tribe, the Franks. They moved into Gaul. They didn't come in as raiders. They're going to come in as settlers. And once they came in, they learned how to farm. Once you farm, you've got food. Once you've got food, you've got a population explosion. And eventually, they had so many of the Franks now living here, we no longer call it the land of the Gaul. We call it the land of the Franks. We still call it by that name today. We just took the K and softened it to a C, and we get France, the land of the Franks. Charlemagne wants to be his own emperor, but in order to be the emperor of the West, he's got to break the Christianity in his region away from those ecumenical councils that go back east, because then they're part of something bigger than him. And he can't have that. So when the Seventh Ecumenical Council is going to be called, he goes, no way. None of you guys that speak Latin, you don't get to go. And in fact, we're going to have our own council up at Frankfurt, Germany, and everything they said in Constantinople, Nicaea this time, the seventh was in Nicaea, we're going to say just the opposite here in Frankfurt. And they did. Everything the Seventh Council affirmed, the Charlemagne's council denied. So he could break away the Christianity of his empire, and it become the glue that would hold him together. It was 800 AD, and Charlemagne sends a letter to the Pope and says, "Dear Mr. Pope, it has come to my attention that there are those willing to bring charges against you for either misusing of church funds or some sexual immorality. I believe these charges are sufficiently valid enough that I need to look into it, and I will be sending you a summons to come here to Germany, where I will put you on trial. I will be both the judge, the prosecutor, and the jury." You know, as I think about it, it's awfully cold here in December when this trial would take place. I understand you have nicer weather in Italy in December. So instead of you coming here and be putting on trial, you know, dear Pope, I could come to Rome and visit you there at the Vatican. And while I'm there, I could even come and be there at Christmas. And as I think about it, wouldn't it be exciting if at Christmas Eve Mass at the church at night, if I were there and suddenly in the middle of the Mass, you just stopped and brought a gold crown and placed it on my head and declared me to be the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire? What do you think? Well, now the Pope's in a pickle. Do I want to go to Germany and be put on trial? Or would I like to host His Majesty here at Christmas? Put on trial, be the host. When will you be arriving, dear Mr. Charlemagne? Charlemagne goes to Rome. He is in, I believe, St. Peter's, where it was held, at the Christmas Eve midnight Mass, 800 AD, December the 25th, when the Pope produces a crown, places it on his head, and declares him to be the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. I've got a fast story. This so fast. It's all in your book. Aren't you glad you got the book? It's right there summarized for you. By 1054, his plan has worked. He's no longer, of course, alive. But in 250 years later, finally, in 1054, the Bishop of Rome will break with the rest of Christianity and will create a Western church. We only had the church before, no name. But now that you have two versions of the church, you have to have a name to talk about them. And so because it's in Rome, it became known as the Roman, and Catholic is a word often used. Catholic and Orthodox are words that were always used in the life of the church for 1,000 years. So they chose the name Catholic, the Roman Catholic Church, and the rest of us ended up being the Orthodox Church. And so you've got Western Christianity, Eastern Christianity, Latin Christianity. This was called Greek Christianity because of Constantinople being the capital, and Greek was still being used. We still had Coptic here, we still had Arabic here, but it was called all of that, and it was still just Latin versus Greek, Eastern versus West, Catholic versus Orthodox. And so that's where they came from. I got time to tell one quick thing. Beginning in 1100 to 1300, the Crusades happened, which from the Western point of view was we're going to go liberate all the Holy Land sites from Islam. But you see, on that first crusade, when the Crusaders entered in Jerusalem, they slaughtered everybody, men, women, children, Muslims, and Christians. And the Crusaders wrote that the blood ran so deep it was up to the bridles of their horses. After the first crusade, where the Crusaders ignored the Orthodox Christians and killed them and took the land and took the churches, created Catholic churches and forced taxes on the people that went back to Rome and to the west. After the First Crusade, the Christians of the East fought side by side with the Muslims against the Crusaders. And as far as the Muslims and the Christians of the East were concerned, the Crusades was the Christian West attacking the Christian East. Footnote: our textbooks in college tell us that nothing of any importance happened after the Third Crusade, and they didn't tell us anything about it, and all they had was a paragraph to begin with. I don't know. I didn't look lately, so I don't know what the latest ones say. But since the first three are the only ones that count, I have to tell you about 1204, the fourth one. The fourth one that doesn't count happened in 1204. The Crusaders left Venice, which is here, and the goal was to go to Alexandria here, make a landing, and come in against Jerusalem from the south rather than going up here from the north and coming in. But halfway there, they did a 90-degree turn and sailed to Constantinople. Now, there's not a Muslim army within at least 100 miles or 200 miles. Islam was in here, but not the army. I think your book says 2,000 or 3,000 miles. I maybe need to check that again just to see. I'm not good with distances. But there's no Muslim army in the area, not even close to being in the area. They sail to Constantinople, and they will attack the city April the 15th, 1204. They rape the city literally and physically. They rape women on all the altars of the churches. They steal all of the gold and silver utensils, all of it off all of the churches that are there. They just raped the city. They loaded all the loot in the boats. They loaded the gold. They loaded the silver. They loaded the art. They loaded the statues. They even loaded coffins from the saints that were buried in Constantinople, all of it, and took it back to Venice. The gold from that crusade is now estimated at over $1 billion, and it covers the interior of the dome of St. Mark Cathedral there on St. Mark's Square in Venice, if you were to go. They used to have it outside. I think they've now put it inside a museum. The horses that were there and the chariot that was brought back from Constantinople stood proudly there on the walls by the St. Mark's Cathedral, overlooking St. Mark's Square. I think a replica may have been there now. Somewhere after I was there a long time ago, they put it up and changed it. Anyway, a textbook that I went to college with said, we have no explanation for why the Italian Renaissance began in Italy in the 13th century. Well, the reason we don't know why the Renaissance began is because we don't remember, because our textbooks don't tell us about the Fourth Crusade. It was the Fourth Crusade that brought back the gold, the art, that financed the Renaissance. There was never a Dark Ages in the East. We never lost learning. We never lost education. We never lost civilization at all. And it all then got brought back, and that is going to launch the Renaissance in the Fourth Crusade, 1204. And they brought back the books that didn't get burnt in the library. They brought back the writings of Aristotle, the writings that still exist out of the, I don't know, he wrote 100, 200 books, and we've only got 20 of them maybe, but those 20 survived because at least the Crusaders threw them in the boat, and they brought back the Greeks from Constantinople with them that then translated them into Latin so that that knowledge begins to come in, and we've brought back Aristotle, and at least scientifically and culturally, we began to shift away from Plato and Augustine. We began shifting towards then Aristotle and a more secular academic world. No more time. I'm sorry. We don't know about this, but it's been going on. And what happened to the church? It survived the next 14 centuries. It has survived all along. After World War I, the Muslim Turks are defeated, and by the millions, Orthodox Christianity poured to the West. and they brought their church with them. That's how come we are standing here tonight in Oklahoma City. I quit. Sorry, took too long. God bless you. Thank you for coming.